Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel where skincare is all about progression over perfection because perfection doesn't exist. And welcome back to another When Beauty Turns Ugly. For these videos, I always collect little stories and sometimes they never make it to a video, but I've noticed that there's something in common with the 3 stories I want to share today. And I'll be doing my skincare routine as well. Now, I love a good bargain. I love a good skincare bargain, mainly because I love a product that emphasizes the fact that you don't have to be spending a small fortune on your skincare in order to see results. Just gonna spray this to calm my skin down a bit. Whatever skincare goals you are after. Now, unfortunately, there are a few stories that make it to the media that make very clickbaity, click-worthy headlines like the title for this video that talk about people who have purchased skincare on a budget, then have had devastating results from those skincare products. And they kind of emphasize the fact that these products are cheap and that's what cheap products do, when we know that's not the case. Further perpetuating the myth that cheap, affordable, budget skincare equals non-effective and dangerous. So in today's When Beauty Turns Ugly, I want to investigate some of these stories and maybe see what really was the issue surrounding these budget cheap skincare products and why did they potentially cause such negative skincare reactions. I'm going to be applying Experiment's new software lip product. This is easily the best lip product I've used from all the new lip balm launches. I have to put it on now because I can't talk with dry lips. It's not sticky, it's a nice thickness but not too thick, and it just makes my lips feel somewhat hydrated and moisturized at the same time. It's not just a thick film over my lips, you know? So back in September of 2023, a mother from Melbourne who wants to be unnamed, let's call her Sandra, she took her 11-year-old daughter to go and spend some of her pocket money. Now, remember we're living in a time, and especially in September of 2023, when kids were starting to get interested in using skincare. So they went to their local Kmart, which is like a department store in Australia and America, I think, right? And Sandra's 11-year-old daughter wanted to spend some of her money on skincare to share with her friend who she was having a sleepover with that night. I used to do that when I was younger, but it was like clay masks and that was kind of it. Now, the products she ended up picking were from Kmart's own by brand, which is called OXX. I don't know if it stands for anything or it's meant to be known for anything, but they're basically known for their really affordable skincare and makeup products. Kmart also stocks, you know, like Garnier and all that kind of stuff. But they also do a lot of dupes of many popular brands, not necessarily cheaper versions, but kind of shameless copies of other brands like e.l.f., Sol de Janeiro, Isora there, and Glow Recipe as well. So in particular, Sandra's daughter decided that she wanted to buy this 3% niacinamide serum, not this one I'm showing you here, and their grapefruit facial scrub. I'm having flashbacks to that grapefruit sheet mask. Now this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, because when speaking to media outlet, Sandra lets them know that she is in fact a cosmetic nurse or an aesthetics nurse. So she took the products, she looked at the ingredients before the girls used them, before she decided to say yes to her buying them, and she deemed them safe to use. Sandra says, I just never thought there would be anything active enough to cause such a problem. When I did look at the ingredients, it had something like chamomile, which is essentially a calming product, so I'm surprised this has actually happened. So let's take a real quick detour and let's just confirm what a cosmetic nurse or an aesthetic nurse is. According to healthcareercenter.com, cosmetic nursing focuses primarily on cosmetic and dermatologic procedures. Cosmetic nurses are responsible for performing or assisting with less invasive cosmetic procedures such as Botox, dermal fillers, laser hair removal, collagen replacement therapy, and chemical pills. They can also be involved in more intense surgery, like cosmetic surgery, as an assistant. They go on to say this nursing specialty centers around providing patients with the cosmetic or dermatologic procedures they either require for health reasons or opt to have done for personal cosmetic reasons. Some of the typical job functions of cosmetic nursing professions are assessing skin aging or other skin-related health problems and performing research to stay up to date on new procedures and protocols, amongst a few other things, but I thought they were the most relevant. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a minute. So they bought the products, took them home. Sandra's daughter and her friend used them without any problems. I presume they had a good night. I don't know. However, the following week, it's summertime in Australia, right? Summertime, they're still at school. They're about to break up for their summer holidays. So it's warm, it's hot, right? And Sandra's daughter started complaining that whenever she would get hot and sweaty, you know, when she was playing and running around, and throughout that week, her skin started to sting more. It got redder and redder and redder, and then it eventually started to peel. This reaction was so bad that Sandra actually thought that her daughter had snuck into her cosmetic salon, esthetician salon, where she worked and had taken a product that she shouldn't have and used it on her face. She was like, this reaction is so bad, she thought it was something a lot more medical. Sandra told the Herald Sun that even in her practice where she worked, she has never seen somebody react to a skincare product like this ever. That's why she was so concerned. Now, it's unclear whether or not Sandra Sandra took her daughter to a specialist of whatever kind to take a look at her skin. All it says in the media is that she used a healing serum, a gentle healing serum, and her skin recovered in a few weeks' time. Now, Kmart did release a statement regarding this situation. They said, at Kmart, we take the quality and safety of all our products very seriously. Whilst these products comply with all required standards, we investigate any incidents that are raised with us. They go on to say, we encourage this customer or any customer who experiences an issue with a product to get in touch with our customer service team to ensure that it can be investigated properly. Sandra is now asking parents to be wary basically of the dangers of buying cheap beauty products, so another child basically doesn't have to go through what her daughter went through. So what really happened here? I'm sure you've noticed quite a few red flags during that story, right? Why did her daughter's skin melt off, as some of these articles said? Let's take a look at the actual products that she used. Starting with their 3% niacinamide serum, straight away, you just know an 11-year-old shouldn't be using a niacinamide serum. And any bottle with a percentage, a number, then a percentage next to the active ingredient, a child doesn't have to be using or should use at all. I don't know about you, and I don't mean to call out this anonymous mother in any way whatsoever or anyone's profession, but without even looking at the ingredients, just looking at the packaging and what's written on the front of this bottle, you can tell this isn't for an 11-year-old. So Sandra saying that she didn't think there would be any active enough ingredients in this product is a little bit strange to me. It's very strange to me. Then she also says that the product was so cheap she didn't think it would be strong enough, which doesn't make sense to me because 3% niacinamide is 3% niacinamide. Of course, you can't judge a product simply by looking at its ingredient list, but let's have a look. Looking at the ingredient list, it's very simple, and of course, so many people can react to so many things in so many different ways, but just looking at this product, it doesn't look like there's a lot in there that can cause this kind of reaction, other than the niacinamide at 3%, which is like the mid-level percentage of niacinamide you see in skincare, right? It's like 0 to 5% most commonly. It's the next product that personally for me I would have more of an issue with. Not more of an issue with, just as good an issue with as the serum. I can see more reasons as to why this product would bother somebody's skin. Their grapefruit facial scrub. Now, we've seen grapefruit in skincare before bothering children's skin, but I just want to highlight a few ingredients. Again, formulation is really important here, but the sheer amount of perfuming and fragrance, we all know I love a fragrance, but it can be irritating for some, probably especially children who don't really need to be using all this stuff on their skin in the first place. But in particular, we have linalool and limonene being two very recognizable fragrant ingredients, very common as well, which are known irritants. We have ascorbyl palmitate, a version of vitamin C as well, not great for kids' skin, and grapefruit water, which again, it's an antioxidant, it's a citrus fruit, it's potentially irritating. So a fair few ingredients that I don't think an 11-year-old should be putting on their delicate skin. Now, I also think this was the summer, they're using actives and citrus. I'm hoping this being in Australia in summer that the kids had sunscreen applied regularly to their skin constantly, because using actives, using citrus waters on your skin, then not wearing sunscreen can really irritate your skin. It can burn, it can blister, it can peel. Now, what wasn't mentioned is there actually was a face mask used as well, and I have no idea what that mask was. They don't say it anywhere for some reason, so I can't comment on that. But I think this is a really good example that just because somebody's job involves skin, it doesn't mean they're trained in understanding ingredients. With a lot of these places, especially like estheticians kind of clinics and stuff like that, they work with brands. It's those brands that come in and teach the estheticians how their products work, the scientific findings about their particular ingredients, and not all of it is scientifically accurate or factual. This is how medical grade skincare starts, right? You get these estheticians, people who work for these medical grade companies come in and teach them all about their skincare and why medical grade is so much better and what their ingredients do that budget skincare doesn't do. So that's all they know. They're not getting any deeper knowledge than that. And I think this is a really boring but interesting example. I think to blame what happened to this child's skin fully on the product is, you know, factually correct. The product did hurt this child's skin, but it's like pouring vinegar into your eye and then saying it burns and then blaming the vinegar. No, that's a really bad example. Children shouldn't be using actives. And then to say parents should be worried about cheap skincare, it's not right. These products aren't made for kids. And I'll be honest, I find it concerning that a cosmetic nurse didn't realize this. But like Sandra says herself, this is something that kids are into nowadays. They're into skincare. They want to be doing skincare. And in my personal opinion, it's up to the parent to be researching if they don't know what the kids are putting on their face. Because the moment you look up niacinamide, you're gonna know that is not for your child's face. Do you have Aldi in America? I don't know if you do. It's very popular here in the UK and some parts of Europe as well. And it's a supermarket basically. And they have like a bakery, which always smells really good. But they are also known for their skincare cosmetics range called Lacura, I think it is. And they're known for making dupes too. They're super affordable though. So unlike Kmart, they do dupe Glow Recipe, Nivea, Pixi, Elemis. Who else? Everyone basically, they go through stages of just copying people at super affordable prices. We're talking anything from 99 pence to like £5 is probably the maximum I've seen. Rochelle Jeffrey purchased one of these dupes on her regular food shopping trip. She saw that this body lotion by Lacura said that was for sensitive skin. It was healing and repairing, and she thought, perfect, that would be great for me and that would be great for my daughter. It kind of looks like a Nivea or like Dove dupe, I'm not sure. And it was only £1, so she was like, why the fuck not, you know? When she got home, she put it to one side. She was like, it's not for now, but her daughter saw it and wanted to try it herself. So she reached for it and put some of this body lotion on her face. And pretty immediately, according to Rochelle, her skin started to get red. And she said you could feel the heat coming from her skin. And in a few seconds later, her daughter was crying, like asking for her mum, saying that it was burning. Rochelle said her daughter was covered in tiny blisters. So Rochelle was like, it can't be that body lotion. So she put a little bit of body lotion on her face too. And immediately it started to get red. Her face was stinging too. Rochelle rinsed their faces under like some running water and their faces calmed down. The burning, the itching, the stinging completely stopped. She did say after that though, she could still feel like a heat coming off of their skin. Now Rochelle of course complained to Aldi because this was meant to be for sensitive skin. It says on the bottle sensitive skin. And Aldi just offered her a £20 voucher. Which, you know. They did comment though, they did make a statement. They said, we were sorry to hear about the Jeffrey family's experience. Our skincare range is rigorously tested and we have received no other similar complaints about this product. As with any cosmetic product, there is always the possibility of an individual intolerance to a particular ingredient, which is true, right? And honestly, looking at the ingredients again, it's hard to see what could have caused this kind of reaction because there's no obvious standout ingredients, irritants, whatever, allergens, but anyone can be allergic to anything or get irritation from anything, right? The only thing I can see in here is lactic acid, but in such a small percentage, I doubt it was in there for exfoliation. But it is a bit strange, two people reacting the same way to this particular product is kind of odd. I don't know. I can't comment on this. I don't know enough about cosmetic formulation. I don't know enough about skin conditions to speak about this on a professional level because I'm like, what would have done this? Other than the fact that anyone could be allergic to anything, but I don't think it's because it was cheap. And a very similar thing happened with Aldi's extra sensitive sun spray, again on a child. Now the sunscreen, which Aldi say is approved by the Skin Health Alliance, actually sent a 2-year-old into anaphylactic shock. She was rushed to hospital because her throat was swelling up, her eyes were swelling, she couldn't stop scratching at her face. Nurses and her mother Chelsea had to hold her down whilst they rinsed out her eyes where she'd been rubbing so much that the sunscreen had got into her eyes as well. And after 3 hours in hospital, once everything had calmed down, they decided to run tests on her and see what had happened. And the doctors basically said, your daughter can't use sunscreen until we get these results back. Whilst waiting for these results, Chelsea was like, this is horrible. Like, my daughter can never wear sunscreen again. I'm going to have to make sure she's fully protected in clothing all the time. She can't go out and enjoy the sun like a normal child. But then she remembered that her friend had actually bought the same sunscreen from Aldi. So she texts her, just updating her saying, I'm in the hospital. This is what happened to my daughter after using that sunscreen we bought. Can you test it? Can you do a patch test on your child? So her friend decided to patch test this sunscreen on her 9-month-old baby at the time. And the baby's skin instantly went red and came up in little blisters. Again, another example where, yeah, of course you could be allergic to anything, but two people being allergic to the same thing, having the same reaction, who just happen to live in the same house or know each other, is kind of strange. Now, the difference here is that Chelsea isn't blaming cheap products at all. Again, these headlines always leave with Aldi product or budget product that ruined so-and-so's skin. Now, Chelsea isn't actually blaming cosmetics for this. She's kind of blaming herself, but also Aldi for not giving enough information. I forgot to do my skincare routine. She says that nowhere on this packaging did it say you need to patch test this. Obviously, you avoid the eye area just because you do, as I apply moisturizer over my eyes. I think that's fair enough. I think unless you're really into cosmetics, unless you, I don't know, regularly get like your hair dyed or something like that, not many people actually know what a patch test is. I remember when I worked in a salon and new clients would come in to get their hair dyed or have like some kind of straightening appointment, and I'd have to be like, we have to do a patch test. And they'd be like, what's a patch test? And they didn't understand how it worked. Like, people would come in and they've chopped off bits of their hair, and I was like, no, it's not common sense to do a patch test, and the packaging should have said that. that. A spokesperson for Aldi said, "We were sorry to hear about the Joneses family experience. Our Lacura sunspray is dermatologically tested and has been approved by the Skin Health Alliance. Despite our extensive testing, however, there is always the possibility of an individual intolerance to a particular ingredient." Now, I did a bit more research on this particular sunscreen because I feel like I've seen it before. It's a dupe, I think, for a very popular, I want to say Sultan one. And a lot of mummy bloggers in particular, and a lot of like mum forums love this sunscreen. Not just this sunscreen, but this range that Aldi do of sunscreens. They swear by them. And I didn't really see any more negative comments or reactions about this particular sunscreen. However, I did find some stories that were bashing Aldi's sunscreen in general, saying that they'd been burnt to a crisp after being out in the sun for just 3 hours after applying this sunscreen. Of course, there are factors we need to think about, like, did they apply enough in the first place? Were they really out for 3 hours? Did they reapply within that 2 hours? I'm not saying anything about British people in the summertime here, but British people in the summertime put sunscreen on, then lay out in the sun for like 6 hours, then go red. I'm not blaming the consumer, but sunscreen, as long as you're following the instructions, should be fine. Or this may have just been a really shit sunscreen. In fact, I couldn't find this sunscreen anymore, so I don't know whether this was just an old sunscreen or it's been discontinued. I think it's fair to say that throughout this series, we've seen that most of these reactions or these disasters that come from cosmetics usually happen for one of 3 reasons. 1, no patch testing has been done. 2, the products simply aren't suitable for the consumer, children using actives. Or 3, some people are just allergic or get irritated by particular ingredients. Some don't, unfortunately, it just happens. Very rarely is it down to the fact that the product was too cheap or it was cheaply made. This happens in luxury skincare too, and I'm the last person who wants to bring up those Sephora kids again, but we're seeing that now with kids using mid-tier price cosmetic brands that they're getting reactions because they don't need to be using these products. I would love to do a deeper dive into what makes a product expensive, how some brands can make products so affordable, but it will take a long time to do. I feel like I've got good connections. I'll be able to figure it out. Let me know if that's something you're interested in, because it will take some time, but I don't want to do it if no one cares. So whilst a lot of these headlines make it sound like the budget friendly, the super cheap skincare product was the issue, like most things, like most lawsuits, like most articles, it usually just turns out that someone had a bad reaction, unfortunately. A very rare but bad reaction. You know what? Let's share some of our favorites, cheap, affordable, under $10, under £10 skincare products in the comments down below. You can watch the rest of the When Beauty Turns Ugly playlist here, some general light entertainment here, and I'll see you over there.